time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do, you do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center Studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to the Monday Bonus Podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, the Venerable John Riley, with his opinions from left field, and we welcome you to Hacksaw's Headlines. The podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, they can be your best friend. Go to Dixieline.com to see all the things they have to offer. John, this podcast will be a little bit different today. This podcast will be like we're playing a day-night doubleheader. We're going to do 2 very different things on this podcast. Lots of topics on the table, lots of opinions, and then at halftime, we're going to invite a guest on. We're going to talk about the history of sports talk radio in San Diego because it always seems to be a hot topic that we kind of drift into about what we did, what we formed, what it's become. The coach, John Kentera, one of my longtime teammates at 690, 1090, he'll be joining us in the 2 o'clock hour. So we're going to go a lot of different directions on this podcast. And John, all things baseball, because that is the hot topic, and we bat lead off. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Lee. I'm ready to dive in with this content because we got a blitzkrieg bop to get through here.
Yeah, today, the beginning of a new era, the next era, San Diego Padre baseball, the arrival of Jose E. Feliciano, along with his wife, as majority owners of the San Diego Padres. Press conference started a half hour ago. It's now complete. End of the day, man with great wealth, man with great philosophy. This man replaces a broad, wide history of people who have owned this franchise, some good, some bad, some very special. This is a history of Padre ownership. C-ARNHOLDT Smith owned the old Pacific Coast League Padres, was granted the Major League Padres expansion team in 1969. He was a man who was involved in politics, the man that was involved in finance. He was a man that was close to Richard Nixon. He's a man that was found guilty of fraud. This is a man that wound up going to prison. Before he was, in essence, forced out, he tried to sell the franchise to a group out of Washington, D.C. to replace the Washington Senators. In stepped Ray and Joan KROC, unbelievable businessman, a.k.a. McDonald's. She, tremendous philanthropist. He, baseball fan, not baseball man, did some amazing things with the franchise in terms of free agency and trades and making the Padres relevant, if you will. And he brought us the Jack McKeon era. The third ownership group, after Ray KROC passed and Joan KROC decided not to keep the franchise, was the involvement of local ownership. Tom Werner out of Hollywood showed up. 1990. Bought the franchise. Tom and the Terrible 15, they were known, 15 local investors. They were broadsided immediately after they bought the franchise by the reality that ownership of every major league team had to pay collusion damages in the Jack Morris free agent case. They got knocked to the floor by the amount of money they had to write checks. Promptly went into fire sale mode, and we know the rest of the history. Tom Werner, in essence, was asked to leave, take Roseanne Barr with you, period, exclamation point. That brought us the dynamics of John Moores out of Houston with his running mate Larry Lucchino's brilliance. That brought us World Series teams, bigger payroll, and the creative juice that led to the building of Petco Park. Very special era. John Moores did not like the way payrolls were escalating. Personal issues, decided to sell the franchise. Ron Fowler came on board as minority owner to kind of become caretaker of the franchise in 2012. Working with the Seidler family jointly, he brought some economic stability to the franchise. And then Peter Seidler took over majority control of the franchise. St. Peter, I call him. He took Padre baseball to a new spectacular level. He invested enormous amounts of money, as I say, pushed all of his chips to the middle of the table. End of the day, He made small market San Diego feel big time. Product got better. And through the creative juice with the general manager, A.J. Preller, and the brilliance of the president, Eric Grupner, they have marketed this thing to the hilt. They have now made Petco Park a destination point for families, baseball fans, etc. So that's where we came from. That's who we used to be. And now Jose E. Feliciano and Kwanzaa Jones take over this franchise. It's very interesting to hear the comments from Feliciano today. His comments about a team that contributes to a community. Well, that's what, under the Seidler flag, Padre Baseball became. He said, we're going to continue Peter's life legacy. That means the quality of the product on the field. He said, we bought into the entire growth of Major League Baseball. This is just not purchasing a franchise. He believes as to where MLB has gone. He does firmly believe there will be a massive TV increase when the new collective bargaining agreement takes place. We're at all-time attendance, revenue, TV ratings, not just in San Diego, but across the land in Major League Baseball. There's no doubt the Padres own the economic market, the financial market, the emotional market of this team since the Chargers' catastrophic decision that turned their back on 55 years of loyalty. They've invested in the team. Peter Seidler's approach was, I will spend, I will put the product on the field, I will invest, and then the community will in turn invest. And look at what has happened these record-setting attendance years, 4 years in a row. Mr. Feliciano used the word robust, talking about this marketplace, using the word robust about the upside potential still of Major League Baseball. He's buying into baseball's momentum. He is of the opinion that there should not be a shutdown, lockdown, because everybody's making money. Find a way to share the new economics. Very unique man, very successful man, replacing a legacy of a man in Peter Seidler. John, that's where this franchise came from and where it is as of this afternoon. Your take.
You know, those are like chapters in a book, Lee. Every single one of those owners, you could kind of, describe the theme, the general vibe with the team and how well they did or how disappointing they were. But I don't know, I'm excited for this new ownership group. I hope they, what they're saying with their words, they're going to be backed up with action in terms of their commitment to the community. But you know what, Lee, I think we got to be careful here because I think sometimes I've been seeing it written the other way. The Kwanzaa Jones and Jose Feliciano. I think Kwanzaa might be driving the bus in some of these cases.
Well, I think it's a team. And it's a team that's had success. And it's a team that's done philanthropic stuff squared in every aspect of their lives. So going forward, there is a level, there is a standard that has been set. Thank you, Peter Seidler. I would hope if this franchise ever gets to a World Series and wins, when they hand out World Series rings, I would hope they would have inscribed on those rings with all the diamonds on the side, the letters P.S., in memory of Peter Seidler. I call him St. Peter. What he's meant to the ownership of this franchise, nobody's ever done before. And now for Jose Feliciano, your chance to improve on a very special legacy. You're a Padre fan. Open up Fans Forum. The chat box is open. Give us an opinion on the history of the franchise, that list of names we just ran through, and what do you expect from Team Feliciano involving the operation of the Padre team? John, that's topic one. This is a day-night doubleheader podcast.
Okay.
Hope
hey,
you'll
Lee,
stay
your
with it.
microphone sounds fantastic. Everyone's saying it's so crisp and clear and punchy and loud, Lee.
New microphone, new camera, different day, pal.
Right on.
Item 2, let's talk Padre baseball on the field, John. Here we go.
It's been a lot of fun to watch over this weekend, Lee. They're looking good.
Oh, nice headline. Damn right. Hotter than the weather. Padres are the hottest team in Major League Baseball. They're 71-60 as Pittsburgh comes into town. Padres have won 21 of their last 28. Since July 5th, right around the time they played the Dodgers, the Padres have gone 28-15. Now, I tracked back and looked at that schedule. 20 of those 28 wins, John, were against a bunch of bad teams. But that being said, product got better. Trading deadline brought 2 more established starters. Everything seems to be stabilized, and Fernando Tatis is having an MVP-type week that could turn into an MVP-type month. Now, things are not perfect, because once they finish up with a Pirates team that has really fallen on bad times, they got to get on a plane and they go play real people again. They go play first place Tampa Bay. They go play the Yankees, who are now starting to get healthy. They still have to play the Dodgers, and they have 7 games at the end of the season against a team they're trying to fight off, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are playing pretty good baseball right now, despite a whole bunch of problems off the field. So this Padre team right now, they look complete. Now, Casey Mize dinged an ankle. Maybe he sits out one start, but luckily it was not badly sprained. Musgrove is going to make one more rehab start on Tuesday. Then he could be part of maybe the back end of the rotation or at least long relief in the bullpen. Pivetta, it's a slow process, not ready to come to the major league level. Buehler has just been spectacular. If I had a vote, I would vote for Walker Buehler, comeback player of the year. Last 4 starts in the heat of the pennant race when they needed him. 2.05 ERA last 4 starts. I still maintain these guys have come off that type of surgery. It's a start-to-start situation when you evaluate them. But, John, this team, like you say, it's hotter than the weather in San Diego, and it's bleeping hot here right now.
They're cooking, man. It's been fun watching this team. I mean, do you think that Tatis is going to rise up even higher in overall, let's say, WAR ranking in the National League? Could Tatis maybe be an MVP candidate if he keeps up this pace for the rest of the season?
Well, we got the entire month of September, but this pace has been phenomenal. He's now pushed his batting average to 290. Fernando El Nino is 14 for his last 30. Tatis has hit 12 home runs in recent weeks, and this is a guy who went, 56 games without a bomb? And now he's on a tear. So far, so good. Continues to do all things over the wall in right field to bring fly balls back. Continues to run the bases with abandon. This is pretty good baseball right now, pretty electric baseball. So that's all things Padres. Do you have faith in the Friars, or are you withholding judgment because starting next week, they start playing real people again, not the bottom feeders on the Major League schedule? We go from that, John. Next topic, Dodger baseball.
A lot of controversy with this team right now, Lee.
It's unbelievable. What has happened in terms of the reaction to the Mark Walter crisis, it's grabbed baseball by the collar. Quite a showdown and an argument between that guy, Stan Kasten, who's the leader from the business standpoint of Dodger baseball, with the LA media. Got into a fierce argument about whether or not the Dodgers are going to have to be put up for sale because of what Mark Walter's done financially to raise money, to buy the Dodgers, to buy the Lakers. And now Mark Walter's in scramble mode, trying to sell pieces off so he can pay back the loans to his insurance company in Delaware that they took the money from. Now, he's not been charged with anything, but it's obvious to me he's in scramble mode because that business practice, it sure does not look like it was a bookkeeping mistake. It looks like it is a violation, but he's trying to make good on it. But Stan Kasten just got into a heated discussion with the New York Times and The Athletic on the field. Quote, "This team is not for sale. There is no process. There is no conversation. You haven't read the documents, and yet you're writing stories that don't exist. The Dodgers are a separate entity from the Lakers, Chelsea, or anything else." So, very unhappy atmosphere with the media and Dodger leadership at this point in time. On the field, big setback for the Dodgers. They're playing better. They've won 6 in a row. They lose Andy Pages. Fractured hand, gone likely all of September. Hope to have him back for the playoffs. We believe he's already had a surgical process. I believe it was yesterday. But that's a big blow because he was the only one of the outfielders that was hitting with any consistency. How about Blake Snell? Blake Snell's ERA is now 2.05. Tyler Glasnow will be given the ball and will start tomorrow. Ohtani has thrown another 30-pitch bullpen session yesterday. He looks like he is about to be cleared to maybe be the opener on a bullpen day. And the opener would go 1 or 2 innings, and that would be it, and then stay in the game as a DH. At this point, they're not considering making him the closer, but they need to get him in rhythm, but they don't want to push pitch count nor a lot of innings with Ohtani. Edwin Diaz is back. He threw his first bullpen. Doesn't mean anything. He's got to show he can continue to throw bullpens with not having a problem with the neck flare-up, and they're not going to let him be the closer if they ever activate him going forward. Will Smith, the all-star catcher in Oklahoma City, start rehab tomorrow, maybe 3 games. He's been doing baseball-related activity now for almost 3 straight weeks. No problem with the neck flare-up. So, John, this whole thing here with the Dodgers and the Mark Walter issue with money, this is pretty nasty.
I'd say what in the Mipe Mitsuhara is going on around here, all this controversy with the team. What is your take on this rumor, or is it in the contract language, that Shohei Ohtani might get freed up? He might become a free agent if Walter or if Stan Kasten leaves the team.
That is contained in the contract. That question was asked about a week ago by the media. Ohtani's response is, I'm not leaving. Does not matter to me. I'm playing baseball and we're in first place and we want to win a 3rd straight championship. There's no conversation. And by the way, where's it going to go for that kind of money? With all that deferred money, not going to happen. Another media concoction, if you will. Well, that's a story we might want to run with and see what kind of reaction. Ohtani threw cold water on and put that fire out immediately. Okay, that's all things Dodgers. Let's talk about the 3rd team we always cover, talking Angels baseball. Yeah, that's a sign. Actually, it should be in neon lights. That's what they should put up at the Big A on the highway there outside that stadium. Help wanted pitching. They just continue to struggle. Their number 1 guy, Yusei Kikuchi, came off the disabled list after 3 months. He had shoulder impingement, John, and he just got strafed. He just did not look ready. It's a big issue there. But every one of the other pitchers that's been in that rotation has pitched really well. Here's a stat that just blew me away this morning. Since they relieved Mike Maddox and the other 2 assistant pitching coaches, the Angel pitching staff has an ERA of 1.64. 1.64. And just absolutely amazing. I don't think they have enough arms, but Reed Detmers is having a career-type half season. Ryan Johnson, young guys, pitch better. Grayson Rodriguez, after all these physical woes, has given him back-to-back decent starts. This kid from Salt Lake City, George Klassen, very impressive ERA so far. Wilbert Urena has been very steady with a sub 3.00 ERA. And they got Jack Kachanowicz. Of course, he's had the elbow surgery. He'll be back maybe at the tail end of next season. They still need more pitching. They're going to have a lot of budget space. But all of a sudden, what looked to be just horrific seems to have stabilized, at least in the last 3 weeks, making the team more competitive. Still need more bats. John, your take on the Halos?
It's interesting that the performance of this pitching staff has improved once Maddox was let go, because the nerds in the front office, they're finally getting through, right? I mean, they're actually the manager Suzuki and his new pitching coach are actually listening to the analytics guys, and they're getting good results. I mean, this just proves that, baseball is playing, 4D chess compared to how it was 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, that's all things Angel baseball. If you have a comment, your fans forum chat box is open. We're doing something really different today. Again, it's kind of like a day-night doubleheader on this podcast. So just stay with us because we're trying to cover a lot of material. One last baseball note as we peek inside the notebook. Boy, they got a problem. They got a real problem in Arizona with the Diamondbacks. John, I don't know if you followed very much of this. They've got issues, obviously, with their pitching staff, the amount of money that they spent on Corbin Burns, what's happened to some of their other pitchers. And they've had half a rotation, and yet they're still in the wild card chase. Now there's the real anger in the clubhouse and the dugout. KETEL MARTE has disappeared, has left the team. 2nd year in a row, as they were fighting for wild card spots. He was a no-show did not show up at a game at Fenway Park, disappeared, was seen in the team bar that night after not showing up for the game, flew home, indicated he wanted an exam on his knee, gave him an exam on his knee, said there's a little bit of tendonitis in the knee. As the Angels come off their road trip, he's not even in the clubhouse with the team. He's cited at a casino for 4 hours gambling. Where is this guy's priority? Where's this guy's intelligence? And this has really caused a ruckus. That manager, Torey Lovello, says, I feel betrayed that he's allowed this to happen for a second year in a row when everybody else is pulling the rope in a certain direction, and this guy is acting the way this guy is acting. So that's a big problem there. Now his teammates have turned on him. Kevin Ginkel said he needs to be here. Whether he's in the lineup or not, he needs to be in this clubhouse. And newly acquired Luke Nootbaar, who came from the Cardinals and has had a good month since the trade deadline, says he owes us an explanation in front of us face to face. That's really an angry group of Arizona Diamondbacks. Manager had no knowledge this was going on. The GM had no idea where the player was because there was no response. How can Marte handle business that way, especially in a pennant race?
Crazy stuff there, Lee. Let's keep this thing moving because Coach John's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes.
Okay, we're doing a day-night doubleheader here. So you stay with us because we're covering hot topics on the table. And then John Kentera is going to join us right after halftime. And we are going to talk about the history of sports talk radio, amongst other topics with him. And then you'll join us on Fans Forum. We'll go from that. Let's talk NFL football, John. Rams, Chargers. One impressive, one injured. Rams look like they're ready for the start of the season. Stetson Bennett threw us for 181 yards in his preseason start. Tyler Simpson comes off the bench, throws for 74 more. Aaron Donald continues private workouts. There's going to be a meeting this week in which they're going to try to define how he is going to rejoin the team and what the role will be. And today they added to the secondary. They signed longtime Pro Bowl cornerback Stephen Gilmore, formerly New England, formerly Buffalo, moved around the league. He's joining the Rams. So at this point, Rams look like they're hitting on all cylinders with just one preseason game left on the schedule. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, boy, they got smoked by the 49ers. That was terrible, what happened on the weekend. And their offensive front is not playing well. And now they don't have that starting center because of that catastrophic knee injury. And they're going to open the season with two rookies who've never snapped a ball in anger. Now, Jake Slaughter, high draft pick, looks like he can hold up, but he's gotten beaten on a bunch of plays as a starting center in these first two preseason games. And the other center is a free agent, Jacob Spanner from Fresno State. He's played in preseason games, but they've not been able to run the ball, and their backup quarterbacks who've taken all the snaps have taken a lot of hits. So suddenly the Chargers, they don't look right. And I don't think they've solved the left guard problem. Now they've moved Trey Pipkins, who failed as a right tackle, struggled at right guard. They've moved him back over to left guard, and maybe he has to be the guy. So that's where the Chargers are at this point in time. It just does not seem to be a complete football team at this point in time. John, quick reaction on the Bolts and the Rams?
I just loving the whole preseason, just in general, Lee. It's nice to have a break, a little bit of football. It's going to be exciting this year.
Yeah, we're just a week plus away from the start of the season. Let's go to the NFL Notebook. Hot topics on the table. Raiders, boy, did they get a scare. Ashton Genty went down with what they first feared was a knee injury when his cleats caught on the artificial turf of their indoor practice facility, John. They found out today it's more of a high ankle injury than it is a knee injury, but it does not look like he'll be ready to start the season. Thank goodness they have the rookie Mike Washington, who's had a good camp. Meanwhile, a real dose of reality for the Raiders. This starting quarterback is good. Fernando Mendoza, though, getting a dose of reality. His offensive line is poor. He has no go-to wide receivers, and their defense isn't real good. Big debate. Do you let him play opening day and just sit Kirk Cousins because Mendoza's been very competitive, or are you making a mistake if you make that change? Cleveland, his controversy is never going to end. Today, after Deshaun Watson went 5 for 12 for 81 yards and looked terrible and got booed, and then rip the fans for being so unprofessional towards him in a stay in Cleveland. Today, the Browns named Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback. That is not going down very well. Shedeur Sanders handled it with maturity, said, I'm a young quarterback. I'll be ready to play when they need me to play. Nobody outside of Jim Haslam and Andrew Berry, the general manager, and maybe Todd Monken, is of the opinion Deshaun Watson should be the starting quarterback. Houston Texans. He's a classy guy. He's walking away from football. Nick Chubb, who rushed for over 7,300 yards with the Cleveland Browns and Houston Texans. He had 3 major knee injuries, has decided to retire. And it's a big blow because Houston liked him. Houston also lost their other big veteran running back, Joe Mixon, who never recovered from foot surgery. Nick Chubb's farewell statement to the Houston Texans and the media: at my age in my career, my health will be my wealth going forward. That's why he elected to get out of the NFL. Really ugly story in Buffalo. He came back to camp today. Their Pro Bowl defensive tackle, Ed Oliver, was gone without explanation. The Buffalo Bills did not tell the media of the death of his 2-year-old son in a drowning incident in Florida. One of the Buffalo media broke the story when it finally leaked out from a police report. It's sad. Bills players are really angry at the Buffalo media for reporting it. The media says this club could have informed us and asked it to keep us off the record. You hid the information from us. So kind of an ugly story there. Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy is now 3rd string. I don't know what they're going to do, but he looked very rocky, played very poorly, 5 for 10, throwing the ball all over the place. He's lost his starting job to Kyler Murray, and now he's behind Carson Wentz on the Minnesota depth chart. Indianapolis, first great preseason game for Anthony Richardson. Awful second preseason game, only 23 yards. I don't know what we're going to do with him. And the last one has to do with Miami. Boy, how miserable a season is this going to be for the Miami Dolphins? Second preseason game, they threw for 53 yards. An NFL team throwing for 53 yards. How bad is that? Those are hot topics on the table. We get to halftime. We still got lots more to come. Now, this is a very unique day-night doubleheader. Hot topics on the table. John and I express opinions, but we're also, when we come back at halftime, welcoming in John Kentera, the coach, longtime popular sports talk show host, my teammate at Extra 690 and at the Mighty 1090. And we're going to do a segment on the history of sports talk radio in San Diego, because this coming Thursday, we're going to do a segment on the history of sports talk radio in Los Angeles. So we want you to stay with us for what's still to come here, what's still to come on Thursday. We think you'll like it. We will come back once we're done with the coach. We'll have more topics on the table, other things to talk about. But we are at halftime. His podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, with 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. John, Dixie Line is more than just lumber. Dixie Line's about windows and doors. And Dixie Line has built quite a reputation for what they provide to the homeowner, the individual homeowner, or in some cases, those building houses or those renovating old houses. Take it from there.
Well, you know, one of the things that the contractors and builders just love about Dixie Line is that the quality of the lumber is superior to the lumber that you can get, from the other guys that are out there, a lot of the other kind of home centers. So you're going to get quality lumber at Dixie Line. It's a drive-through lumber yard. They're going to load your truck up. And it's not just for builders and contractors, even for homeowners have DIY projects at home. The folks in the lumber yard, they're going to load up all your building materials and get you all dialed in for your drive back. And they've got smoking deals all the time. Dixie Line is running promotions with all the big manufacturers, the tool brands. Just go to dixieline.com in the special offer section to see more about their breaking deals. But, Lee, Dixie Line's been a partner of San Diego for over 100 years. This is a great partner to have here for your podcast.
I agree with you, John. Check your text. I need you to resend the link. Dixie Line. Been in business. Build it. Fix it. Guarantee you will enjoy it, thanks to dixieline.com. Before we go to the second half of this podcast, just a couple of reminders. When we're done with topics on the table, we do what we call Fans Forum. And what we do is we open it up to you in the chat box to jump on board with your opinions. And it can be about the Padres ownership. It can be about Padres being hotter than the weather. It can be about the Dodgers or the Angels or what's just happened in Arizona. And of course, if you're an NFL fan, feel free to jump on board to talk about the Rams and the decisions coming, the Chargers, and what we just kind of buzzed through with the NFL notebook. In addition, with the opening of the college football season, I'm going to ask the question, where are Aztec football fans? Are you going to support this program? NBA Notebook, Hockey Hotline. Obviously, we've got all types of things coming out of the World Cup, FIFA, English Premier League soccer. We do cover auto racing, horse racing, etc. All that coming up, and you get to participate on Fans Forum. So you got questions, statements to make, opinions, just fire us some information in the chat box. Fans Forum chat box open for business right now. Get in line so we can get you on the live stream podcast when we are done. Topics on the table. John, we ready to move on to the second half?
I'm ready, but the coach hasn't joined us yet.
Okay, when he dials in, John will bring him up.
Dials in. Well, I resent him the link, so hopefully he'll get it and we'll be in good shape here. Do you want to keep going with Hacksaw's headlines?
Let's just keep going. Let's talk San Diego State Aztec football. I got a burning question in the aftermath of all things with the Aztecs. Where are the fans? The survey done about season ticket sales as we go towards the unveiling of the new Pac-12 football season. And the burning question, where are the Aztec fans? They've sold 8,315 season tickets for opening day a week from now. 8,315 season tickets. So here's the big issue. This is a marketplace of 3.5 million. You have heard the phraseology Aztec for life. So the burning question is, where are the Aztec for life football fans? How come they don't support this football program? Boise State has sold over 20,000 season tickets joining the conference. Oregon State historically has been at about 16,000. Fresno State fans obviously are amped. They've sold over 14,000. Small market Colorado State, 12,200. Now, Washington State on the Palouse, which has not had good football, kind of surprising. But again, small community, 8,900. Utah State in the backcountry, 8,400. The Aztecs are 7th out of 8 schools with 8,315 season tickets. Texas State numbers not available. So please tell me, where are the Aztec fans, quote, AKA Aztecs for life? San Diego State has reduced their ticket prices a lot in the last couple of years to try to rally back from the mistakes they made. The schedule is the schedule. Now, I've maintained, unless they can bring some big-time schools in here, renew the rivalry with BYU, find a way to do a 2-for-1 with UCLA or Southern Cal, I don't know that they'll draw the kind of fans they did during the Marshall Faulk era. If the product gets good, if this team ever gets the chance to be a group of 6 rep in the college football playoffs, maybe that changes things. But at this point, this is stunning. As hard as they've worked to build that stadium, to finally get into this conference, create the revenue, to keep players, add players, they've sold only 8,315 season tickets. And that first year at Snapdragon, 15,900 plus season tickets. Look at where they are today. So I'm just asking, you can support it, you can ignore it. But I have a right to challenge you to give me an explanation. Where are all the Aztec for Life fans in a market of 3.5 million, in a community that they tell us has 150,000 alums that live in San Diego County? Where are the fans? Another topic on the table, that piece of real estate called Fans Forum, the chat box. It's open for business. Want to hear what you've got to say. John, you ready to do business?
I am. It's just a disgrace to look at these numbers. I mean, when after they went through everything with building Snapdragon, I mean, we want our fans to show up, and they soured on this program on day one with that Arizona game in the heat. We got to give this program a chance. It's Pac-12 now. I mean, it's going to be a more competitive schedule, and they're forecasted to be number 2 in the league. So you think that they would, be a successful program, and hopefully those numbers start to increase, Lee. I mean, it's just a shame. I mean, Sean Lewis deserves better, don't you think?
I think so. But it's absolutely stunning to me as to where we are in the course of this program as they've tried to grow it, that the people have just turned their back. Now, I understand, because I made the comment right at the onset of this podcast, the Padres own the market financially, own the market emotionally, because the product's been pretty good. But there are so many Aztec alums out there. It's just absolutely stunning to me that nobody is supporting this football program. Basketball, yes, basketball has won. But this used to be a big football town. John, when I did Aztec football in the Marshall Falk era, that whole chunk of years, they were drawing 48 to 51,000 fans a home game, and we had an NFL team in town at that point in time, in addition to the Padres. So it's absolutely stunning to me. Okay, that's
Lee. Check out Fresno on that list. I mean, you got to give it up to those guys. I mean, they've been that's pulling in a lot of people there in the Central Valley.
I agree, and they do have tradition. Their product has been up. Their product has been down. They've always wanted to be in the Pac-10 conference. So I'm just kind of really stunned at Aztec fans just not being around. I want an explanation. I'm challenging you, who's an Aztec fan, to explain to me why your people are not participating. I just don't understand it. Okay, John, you want to continue here till we try to get hooked up with a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's happening with Coach. I was expecting him to be with us by now, but maybe there was just a little glitch. I sent him the link again.
Okay.
But let's just keep on trucking. We got a lot more content to cover here anyways.
Okay, let's move from all things college football. NBA Notebook open for business. Kind of wheeling and dealing here. And we got issues off the court in the WNBA again, plus the San Diego State situation. Miami Heat, they add Klay Thompson. Dallas Mavericks, former Golden State Warrior. Dallas bought him out of his big money contract. He's elected to go play for Eric Spoelstra, to go play with Giannis, to go play for Pat Riley. He averaged 12 points per game. He's not the player he used to be. There's no doubt about that. But at this point in time, he can score coming off the bench. I don't think anybody expects him to play 31 minutes per night. That's pretty good acquisition. Next transaction, Denver Nuggets signed DeMar DeRozan. This guy, when he's not hurt, this guy's pretty good. This guy can stroke it. DeMar DeRozan, 18 points per game last year, despite injuries with Sacramento. Prior to that in Washington, he was a point producer. He goes to Denver. Now, Denver, sadly, is a bit of a fractured basketball team right now with the mishandling of one of their young forwards who was traded to Cleveland last week. WNBA, boy, the quality of play is so cool. The games are so explosive. Would you please explain to me why the fans are acting the way the fans are acting? John, I don't know if you heard this. At the Chicago Sky home game this past week and at the LA Sparks home game, fans threw sex toys on the floor at the WNBA players. Does that come under, I have rights when I bought that ticket to do what I want, say what I want, throw sex toys on the court? You are kidding me. Just absolutely amazing. San Diego State, Aztecs have picked up another transfer in on campus, 6'8", from Nigeria. Samson Mashabino, 6'8", 215, young kid. Did not play in the upper leagues. He came from the NBA Africa Academy. Has been cleared in background. He comes on board. Now, they need players. That's the big issue at San Diego State, John. They need players because of In fact, they got 3 transfers who have yet to be approved by the NCAA because they played in the upper echelon leagues in Europe. The one big man from Croatia, the guard and the center from Italy have yet to be cleared. But Mascherano has been cleared on campus at San Diego State. So, John, response, Miami, Denver, WNBA, Aztecs.
You know, I just love this WNBA league. It's just a lot of fun to watch these young women out there, and they're really good and they're attractive. But did you see the bit about, what is his name, Enes Kanter? You know, showed up at the WNBA game with a definition of the word woman on his T-shirt, and it caused a big ruckus with the Chicago Sky players, and they ended up throwing him out of the arena. I mean, it's so interesting to me that the league has, you know, great play, you know, and it's fun to watch these young ladies, but just all the politics surrounding it just makes it really intriguing to watch. So, and then, by the way, as far as the Aztecs go, I think it's kind of cool to take a flyer or a lottery ticket on some of these guys that are sort of kind of off the radar. You know, in this case, in an academy in Africa, didn't make the trip to perform in the United States, but a guy that, you know, they could turn into like another Nathan Mensah, another rim protector. If Dutch and his squad are really good at like identifying that kind of talent, that's the kind of thing that I think can give the San Diego State Aztecs a strategic advantage.
Well, he's really young, though. I mean, he's from Senegal and he's hardly played, but yet he was in the NBA Academy, which means there's some real credibility, and there is talent there. John, I just got a note from Coach Kentera. He's in the waiting room. It says you have to add him on. So you want to take care of that as we move on. Next.
Coach John Kentera is not in the house right now. I think he's using the other link.
Okay, well, he texted me. You'll have to help figure this out as to what we're doing.
All right.
It says I'm backstage and that you can see me.
Can't see him.
All right, you need to put this fire out. You're the technical guru. Let's go from that. Let's go to the NHL notebook.
Okay, yeah, Gary Bettman, big market moves.
This was really a surprise. This is absolutely amazing to me. Gary Bettman, out of the Club Blue Sky, announces over the weekend that the league is going to expand. They are going in 2029 into the state of Texas, and they've already chosen a prospective owner. His name is Dan Friedkin. He was one of the finalists for the San Diego Padres. And Friedkin is going to pay $3 billion, an all-time record, to buy an expansion franchise. Now, the unique aspect with this announcement, they have not yet announced whether it's going to be in Houston or is it going to be in Austin, Texas, which would make it a standalone pro franchise in that big city. Houston makes a lot of sense, but the situation with Houston is there's an arena issue there still. But Houston, from a population standpoint, is one of the fastest growing cities in America. So that really becomes a huge issue as to which city they're going to go in. Now, they're going to add another franchise, which would take them to 34 total. The Texas franchise would be 33. And they are scuffling with the idea of going back into the Valley of the Sun and in Phoenix to replace what used to be the Arizona Coyotes. And that to me is a real strange mix, because Phoenix has had nothing but ownership problems, money problems, attendance problems, and arena problems. And they don't have an arena situation totally resolved yet, but yet Phoenix is in the mix. So there must be a money man there that's willing to foot the bill. Atlanta is still on the periphery, but Atlanta had the NHL Atlanta Flames and then the NHL Atlanta Thrashers, and they both vacated. So I just don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. But they're going to Texas, John. That's item one. You have to tell me, you got Texas ties. Is Houston better than Austin? You surprised by this? And which of the other cities do you think they'd add? Because they're going to add two.
Well, Houston is the fourth biggest city, I think, in the United States, Lee. So, I mean, that's makes sense that they're going to be in Texas. But, there are so many arguments you can make for, expansion franchises. I mean, obviously here in San Diego, a lot of fans are speculating if there's ever going to be a day that they're going to get a big time NHL program. But, I think, you've often spoken, warmly of Quebec City and what that means to that part of the world, to those fans, those French fans in Quebec. That's Quebec City. I remember I visited there not too long ago. You coached me on places to go check out. And it's a great town. It's not that big, but they could definitely support another NHL franchise, right?
The problem they're having, the arena is there. The Olympiad Arena is really special. They don't have the finances. They don't have the money in the ownership group. And I don't know whether it's got to do with the Canadian-American dollar exchange or whether the relationship obviously created by Trump has now gotten so toxic. But Gary Bettman says Quebec City is not in the running. It's more of an ownership issue than it is a market or an arena issue. So that's interesting to see where that goes. We go from all things.
Just joined us.
Okay, we go with all things hockey. Let's take a break. We told you this is going to be a very different podcast. Where it's kind of like a day-night doubleheader. We're going to do something different here, the second segment. Before we get to Fans Forum, we welcome in the coach, John Kentera. John, longtime teammate of mine on Extra 690 and then on the Mighty 1090. And I thought we'd bring John on because we're doing something this week on my podcast a little bit different. We're talking about the history of sports talk radio here, and we're talking about the history of sports talk radio on Thursday with a guy out of Los Angeles and where these markets are. John, I'm sorry for the technical snafus. We finally got it solved. Let me just ask you before we start on sports talk radio, Coach, your reflections on Jose Feliciano, your reflections on the history of what Padre ownership has been, starting from C-ARNHOLDT Smith all the way up to Peter Seidler and family.
Well, Lee, first of all, it's great to be with you and John. Always good to see you guys. No question about that. Having grown up in San Diego, been at the very, very first Padre Major League ball game on April 8th, 1969. I've seen it all. I mean, C-ARNHOLDT Smith, obviously got the franchise, couldn't hang on to it, had all kinds of legal issues, ended up going to prison for a period of time. And then, Ray KROC came in. He saved the Padres from going to Washington. In fact, I think I still have a few baseball cards that actually said Washington, NL, because they were on their way until Ray KROC saved the franchise. And, then it went, obviously, through Joan KROC after Ray passed away, and you had the Tom Werner era, which I think most people here in San Diego, we definitely like to forget. John Moores, I think, Lee, and I think you'd agree with me on this. I think John Riley as well. I mean, we got to know John Moores pretty well. He was very accessible early in his tenure, spent a lot of time down on the field before games, and we got to talk to him and, throw things out to him. And he's really a great guy. And, obviously things went sideways with him and his wife. And, then he became very kind of aloof and away from the ball club, spent a lot of time down in Texas. But, I think people forget, at that point in time, he was spending some decent money, not every year, but he spent some decent money, and they did win 4 division titles and get to a World Series. Of course, Kevin Towers was running the show, and then, I don't know what you'd call the Jeff Morad era after John Moores got out. He never really owned the team. It was just kind of there for a few years, and then the Seidler and Fowler team came in. So I think John Moores and even Ray KROC to a certain degree, people forget. They think that the franchise started with Peter Seidler, and to Peter Seidler's credit, he invested a ton of money. Him and Ron Fowler initially invested a ton of money. They made a bunch of trades. A lot of those trades didn't really work out, and they've also wasted a lot of money, I think. And unfortunately, they still have some of these long-term contracts that I think are going to, really limit what this new franchise, the new ownership is going to be able to do. But I was enthused today from a fan standpoint. I think both of these people, Lee, and I know you do your homework like I do, and John, I think these people are good people. I think they're very enthusiastic. I think they're both extremely intelligent. I think they have a lot of charisma, and we'll see where it goes. I think the big thing for me is, this is like a new toy, and they're going to be very enthusiastic, but 2 or 3 years from now, will they be around? Will they still be engaged? Who's going to be making the day-to-day decisions? Who does A.J. Preller report to? That was a question, Lee, that wasn't asked today in the media conference. I'd like to know who A.J. Preller is reporting to. Is he going to report to Jose E. Feliciano and Kwanza Jones? Is he going to report to Eric Grupner, the CEO? I'd like to have that answered.
John, you and I have talked extensively about the marketplace. I always thought this was a good baseball marketplace, not just because it was a Padre city, but because it's a melting pot of people who've relocated here from everywhere, from Boston, from Pittsburgh, Chicago, whomever. And I think what we have seen now, how this marketplace has put its arms around the product being very good. Pirate fan comes in here tonight to see the Pirates, their hometown team, just like Red Sox fan, Cub fan, Yankee fan, New York Met fan. I think it's such a unique, well, Jose Feliciano called it global market. I think it's such a melting pot of people. If you put a good product on the field, they have now found out, despite the ticket prices, how unbelievably great this market is. And of course, the Padres now physically, emotionally, and financially own the market. Reaction?
Well, my reaction, I think they hit a grand slam because the Chargers moved, and that all of a sudden they become the big dog in town. Let's face it, Lee, back in 2012 when Ron Fowler and Peter Seidler, bought this ball club, like Peter would tell you, I remember meeting with him at a Chili's restaurant up on Mira Mesa Boulevard one night about 2 weeks before he hired A.J. Preller, and he goes, we got to make this ball club relevant again. They were losing it. They weren't drawing fans. They've got, 53 sellouts, I think, this year, and he became relevant. They've won. They've gotten the playoffs. Very thankfully, they've extended the wild card, so you have a little bit better opportunity, and they've done a good job. 4 out of 6, and who knows, they may be headed to their 5th postseason in 7 years. And that's all great, and people are buying in. They're paying big money for tickets to park, concessions. The one thing that I wanted to bring up, Lee, Kwanza Jones and even Jose Feliciano, they stressed today the Baja market. And I think you'd agree with me on this. When we were at Qualcomm Stadium, and of course it seated over 50,000, and I'm still amazed how they were able to get 50-something thousand for a bad ball club with Larry Lucchino and Charles Steinberg and Eric Owens' dirty T-shirt night. Okay, they were amazing what they were able to do with a bad ball club. But the thing that they brought up today was talking about the Baja market, and we had so many great baseball fans that came from south of the border. And there's still some that come, but quite frankly, Lee, it's priced a lot of those people out. It's priced out a lot of people in San Diego. Some of the old Padre fans, they just can't afford to go down there on a regular basis, or maybe only a couple of times, if that, a year.
Well, I think Lucchino's favorite statement, you'll recall this, John, was plant the flag. Plant the flag in Mexico. Well, I think there were limitations. I think they did try it when they brought Fernando Valenzuela in. They tried it, obviously, with Caribbean players. I just don't know if the marketplace has that kind of resource to pay the kind of prices the Padres are charging now.
Now, right.
Are there great players from Mexico that are going to be accessible? Because you can't get players out of Mexico. It's different than Puerto Rico and the Dominican or the Pacific Rim because of the Mexican Professional League and their rules. You just can't go get those guys lickety-split. So I think that's kind of worked against them. The Fernando Valenzuela was, I think, a very unique exception. John Riley, you want to jump in here and talk about the marketplace?
I'm just enjoying listening to the two of you. I'll just say this. I'm enthused about the new ownership, but, let's see how it goes. This is the day one where they're going to be in a honeymoon, and let's just hope the glass is half full.
Okay, Coach, let me ask you about December 1st, where we're going. We got an awful lot of verbal gunfire. I'm going to die on the hill. We'll never have a salary cap. And ownership's response, we're going to pour a lot more money into the pool to be shared, including all the local TV revenue rather than just a smaller percentage. There'll be a lot more money there. Baseball, all-time high in attendance, TV ratings, revenues. There's got to be a middle ground. Don't die on the hill and hurt the sport when everybody's making money now? Just move the figures around. I understand rhetoric. I understand all that. Do you think they can solve this?
I don't know, Lee. I'll be very honest. I mean, you know me, I'm a pretty optimistic guy, especially when it comes to baseball. I really don't know. I mean, December 1st, there's going to be a lockout, okay? You're going to have all these players that they're not going to be able to work out at their spring training facilities. They're not going to be able to work out at their stadium if they live in the town they play. They're not going to be able to work with trainers, doctors, going through the rehab. They're going to have to find their own place. So their agents are going to be busy trying to help their clients out. I don't know where this is going. I mean, I see, and I hate this. See, I'm a guy, and I understand people always say, well, spring training's too long. Well, I get that. But you know what? For pitchers, it's not too long. And you need 6 weeks. And we're already seeing it this year with guys that really didn't have a consistent spring training because of the WBC. They're not performing very well, and they've gotten hurt and missed a lot of quality time. So right now, if I had to guess, I would imagine that we'll have a shortened spring training, and we probably won't start anywhere near on time. I mean, there's a lot of bad blood on both sides right now.
And everybody's making money and wants more money. That's
right. Well, everybody's greedy. And it's weird that you asked me that question, Lee, because I was thinking about this morning. I mean, all these guys are multimillionaires, on the, Rob Manfred. I'm sure he's doing pretty well. Bruce Meyer, who's been doing this forever, for Players Association. He's got a ton of money. You got a lot of players that are making a lot of money. Not all players. I mean, the guys that are just kind of getting their feet wet, they're still making, close to $1 million a year. I think it's 800,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood for a first-year ball player. But the greedy part of it, and this is the first time, though, Lee, I really remember the owners have been digging in really for about 2 years on this, and Manfred's been digging in, and it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. Now, one thing that I think we need to bring up, even though there'll be a player lockout and they won't, or a lockout by the owners, and they won't be able to work out, minor league season can still go on. And the question, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people ask you this, about what do the Padres do with Ethan Salas? Well, you know what I do with Ethan Salas? I let him stay right there in El Paso. I don't bring him up in September because then the rosters are pretty much going to get frozen, and he won't be able to start next year in the minor leagues to continue his growth, and he'd made a tremendous amount of growth this year.
Well, I think the only reason you bring him up if something happened to one of those three other catchers. If you had something significant to Campusano or Fermin, then maybe you would do it. But I agree with you. Leave him where he is. Just let him continue to take the next step forward because the guys above him, they've been pretty reliable, and Campusano's had a breakout season. So unless somebody gets hurt, I don't think I'd go there. Hey, listen, we're doing something different. This is kind of a day-night doubleheader on our Monday podcast. Hot topics on the table. Fans Forum is still to come. And in between, Coach John Kentera is with us, Baseball Opinions. And we're going to talk about the history of sports talk radio. Because Thursday, we're going to talk about the history of sports talk radio - Los Angeles market. Today, it's all things San Diego. So, John, I came here in 1987 as the first cornerstone of what would be Extra Sports 690. They lured me here to be the voice of the San Diego Chargers and do afternoon drive because I was doing that in Phoenix at KTAR Radio. It took them 2 years to figure out what they wanted to do with Extra 690. Because it had been 69 Extra Gold. Then they tried to make it News Talk, weren't patient enough, and all of a sudden, boom, here came Extra Sports 690. When they came up with a concept that we're going to go all sports, big signal, with this guy doing afternoon drive and doing the NFL, and we're going to build out from there. Did you think it would work the way it worked? Because I tend to think it worked very successfully.
Well, I didn't know what to think, but I was really excited, obviously, working there. And I was working there in a non-on-air position. In fact, my first broadcast, I worked with Bloom and Harrigan on 690 Extra Gold. My job was on Saturday or on Friday morning to be on with them about 7:30 and talk about the top high school football games. And then they gave me a job on your Charger pregame show. I had to go out and interview a football coach, high school football coach, and a player each week, and it'd be on tape, and they'd play it during their show between 10 and 11 before, you started doing the countdown to kickoff. And Lee, it's amazing. The first high school athlete I ever interviewed on 690 on Extra Gold was Dave Roberts. He was a sophomore quarterback, now the Dodger manager. He was a sophomore quarterback at Rancho Buena Vista. But in 1990, when John Lynch summoned all of us to the conference room, you'll remember this, Lee, because you were a big part of this. I mean, you were the only guy on the station that were doing sports, and you'd been there for 3 years. And John Lynch called us all in. We go, what the hell's going on here? And he goes, okay, we're going to all sports. Closed down the entire radio station that day. 91X people, everybody had to come in the conference room. And he goes, we're going all sports. We're never going to get the ratings we deserve, but we're going to get results for our advertisers. You know what? That's exactly what happened. And we started slowly, even though the ratings book in radio is kind of a disaster. I think we always, we got decent ratings here and there, but then we never really got probably what truly was listening out there, okay? And I know you could go up and down. You'd always look at the ratings, but the bottom line, it was a group of characters. I mean, I got involved on Saturday mornings doing the high school. You were doing the drive time. We had Steve Hartman. We had Chet Forty. We had Brad Sessman initially. And then, obviously it just continued to grow. And I got more airtime. You were doing your thing. We had the Chargers. I mean, it was unbelievable. When you talk about L.A. sports talk radio, we kicked their ass. That's why 690 got shut down. I mean, 23 of us didn't have our contracts renewed because we kept killing them for 5.5 years in the ratings when they had Extra Sports 1150, and they got rid of all of us to try to get the ratings up, and that lasted about 6 months in LA, and they shut that thing down. That was one of the greatest travesties probably in radio.
Well, I agree with you. Let's talk about the roster of people. I was the first one through the wall. And then they hired Steve Hartman almost by mistake. They went out to try to find somebody to do afternoons, and the guy they wanted was a longtime LA guy, Bud Ferrillo.
Right, the steamer.
And the interview didn't go very well, but they were impressed with just the approach that the younger guy, Steve Hartman, who was part of that meeting, sat in on. Next thing, they hired Hartman. And then so Hartman started working with a wide variety of people. It was a very slow growth process. And all of a sudden, they stumbled across a guy who had worked on Monday Night Football from New York, who I knew, and I had interviewed, Chet Forty. And I've told John Riley the story. When they brought up Chet Forty's name to me, light bulb went on. I said, this will work. Why? Because Hartman is young punk West Coast, all things Dodgers, Raiders. 40, old school East Coast, Yankees, Mets, NFL football. These guys are going to clash. And doggone it, they put those guys together. And for maybe a year and a half or 2 years before Chet suddenly passed away, that was dynamic. It was young versus old, East versus West, taking sniper shots at each other and then arguing with fans. John, to me, it was just, wow, how did they do that? That's how they did it.
Well, I got to know Chet real well because our daughters were in the same grade at Torrey Pines High School. And I used to go pick them up and take them to high school basketball games. Got to know them really well, Lee. And, I think, you talk about them clashing. I remember one time I'd been on late the night before. It was like a Wednesday morning, and I'd gotten up, I'd worked till like 1 a.m. I got home, and I get this phone call about 5 to 10. And it's from Howard Friedman, our program director. He goes, hey, you got to get to the station right now. I'm taking these guys off the air. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, they can't get along. You got to come down here. You got to simmer these guys down. So I hustle down there. I'm down there for the 10:30 break. I fly down the freeway, and I run in, and I go to Howard. I go, okay, I'm here. What do you want me to do? He goes, I want you to go in there. I want you to do a long segment with those guys, and I want you to, calm them down. So we do about a 20-minute segment. We blow through the break. And so we go to the break, and I go into Howard's office. I go, what do you want me to do now? He goes, okay, they're good now. You can go back home. So I drove all the way from Solana Beach down to Pacific Highway to babysit these guys for like 20 minutes, and then I drove back home. There were some legendary arguments. They were real deals. And then I got to the point where they were kind of promoting my high school show, and I'd go in there every Friday morning and do a good segment with them. But those guys were great. And unfortunately, Chet, you were the one that called me on that Saturday morning when Chet passed away. And you know what was amazing? That was the night of the prom in 1996. That was the night of the prom, and Jacqueline, his daughter, her mom encouraged her to go to the prom that night, and my daughter was going as well. But I'll never forget, Kelly walked up, Lee, and I remember exactly what time you called me on that Saturday morning, because Kelly goes, "Hey, you've got a phone call." I go, "Who's calling me at 8:07 in the morning?" She goes, "It's Hacksaw." And I knew it wasn't good news, okay? And so you are on the phone, and you tell me, and then Steve Hartman, if you remember, Steve was in L.A., and we didn't have cell phones back in 96. And he was at a baseball card show. We couldn't get a hold of him. So the announcement on radio didn't come until 3 o'clock. And then that Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, I was the first guy to do a live show after Chet's passing. And I got to be honest with you, that was a tough show to do.
Chet was such a dynamic guy. I could just sit there for hours and just listen to the stories he told and where he'd been. He was big time.
Well, he also used some colorful language from time to time, too.
Oh, you think? Well, he's from New York. What did you expect? So he passed, and I remember sitting on a round table with our owner, John Lynch. What are we going to do? We had this dynamic team, and we've lost one of the components of it. And then second light bulb went on and said, "John, I got a guy, Bill Werndell, NFL insider, based out of Philadelphia. He might consider coming out here." And next thing I know, here comes Philly Billy. And you talk about rubber stamping the same persona, the same angle, the same style. Philadelphia East Coast loudmouth, Philadelphia fans, and Steve Hartman. And same set of circumstances, electric, eclectic, fought, argued. It was cool. It was really
cool. You left a part of that out, though, because you and I both knew Philly Billy.
Sure.
Okay. He had been coming out for a couple of years close to the draft, remember?
Yep.
We'd bring him out for like a week, and he'd be on everybody's show, and he'd be giving us information. And, I had some famous arguments with him out in the lobby just about who should take in the first round and second round and that. And he, to this day, he's still got his little radio show back there in Chester County, and you and I are on his show. He's still funny as hell.
Very much so. The uniqueness of Jim Rome, nighttime guy, college guy from Cal Santa Barbara. They put him on because they had to put somebody on, and he had a very different approach. It wasn't everybody's menu. That's okay. And it got better and better, different, own clientele, and really grew and became an institution. And then they moved him to mid-mornings, and then they wound up taking him nationally. Oddly enough, I've kind of relayed this story a little bit. They had come to me and asked me if I would consider doing a national sports talk show in my time slot. And we went round and round about how it would work, etc. I had meetings with the syndicator and all that. And I finally put my hand up and said, "Gentlemen, I just have a question. Here we are, an afternoon drive. I've been a fixture. I was the first cornerstone piece, and now we built this really good station. And you want me to do a national show, caller-driven, with one guest an hour, but I'm going to interrupt the flow of the West Coast and what we're talking about, Red Hot Chargers, Super Bowl, Dodgers, Padres, whatever. So I take a Detroit Red Wings call or a call about the Green Bay Packers." I said, "Wouldn't that defeat the purpose?" So we kind of backed away from that because I thought I was knocking down big ratings. We're going to impact the ratings so we can go national. And the next thing I know, Romy was moved to mid-mornings, 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., and they tried with him. And it took them forever to grow it. But it grew because of his eclectic style, shtick. And we fought all the time about stuff. But what I called his listeners the jobless. And
early on, I worked with Jim Rome. I remember one Saturday we were doing a show. We were doing a talk show from La Costa, and Chris Visser, who was the original executive producer. He slept in or whatever. He was late getting to La Costa, and we didn't have everything that we needed. And Jim Rome and I laid on the floor of the PR room at La Costa, right in the where the doors open, and we had to lay, and people had to step over us for about an hour because we were doing a talk show waiting for Chris Visser to get there with all the equipment. And it was kind of crazy. But I'll tell you the great story with Jim Rome and I personally. We did a game at Anaheim Stadium. We did a football game, Lee. It was Mater Dei against Eisenhower High School. And this was, at the time, back in the early 90s, the all-time best crowd at Anaheim Stadium for high school football. And Mater Dei upset Eisenhower and cost them the mythical national championship. And I had taken Rick Smith, the former PR director of the Chargers, with me. And we did the game. I did the game with Jim. And then I had to do my talk show at 1 o'clock. But what was interesting about that game was they had the biggest walk-up crowd in the history of Anaheim Stadium that night. And Billy Blanton, who you ended up calling his games, I came back to Al Luganville because he had an incredible game that night. And I go, Coach Luganville, because Tommy had played for me at Torrey Pines, I go, you got to take another look at this quarterback. I go, this guy, even though he's undersized, this guy can play a little bit. And that's kind of that tape from that Mater Dei game that Jim Rome and I did on radio. That's kind of what got Billy Blanton a scholarship to San Diego State. I mean, obviously his ability, but going back to tell Al Luganville, you got to take another look at this guy because he had been on the radar, but he moved up a lot after that game. Cost Eisenhower the national championship.
Yeah, Romy had a great career, and then obviously he left, and he left to go do TV, and he was very unique and very different. And aside from the Jim Everett incident. He's done really well. He's done it for a long period of time. He's been a survivor. I mean, he's outside of he's about the only one that's still really on the air from the original 690 group, still doing some form of media that we recognize because he's doing stuff on CBS Sports now. So he's had a great run. He wasn't one of us because he was in and out of there so quick once he, quote, became a star. But it's fascinating. Let me ask you about. We went through so many different morning shows from Bloom and Harrigan, the old music guys, and then we transitioned. They had the Butt Brothers, and we had so many different angles. Steve Garvey was there, etc. And then Mason and Ireland kind of hit it and did pretty well for a short period, but then they were off and they went to Los Angeles. It's kind of unique. They just never found a great group to anchor what would be a significant morning show because the rest of us were cooking.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I mean, I think part of it had to do, we had some really good morning shows on FM radio back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Now, a lot of soundtracks, and it's a different animal nowadays. But I think back then, people would tune in, though, Lee, on Mondays, even if it was a bad morning show on 690, or people didn't really take to it. But also, a lot of the guys, quite frankly, in the morning, it was always a mixture of how much hardcore sports do you want to do, what kind of entertainment you want to do. And nobody ever came up really with a great balance. And then John Fricke came in, worked with Sean Salisbury for a while, and they had some good moments and some bad moments. But, Fricke turned out to be a fantastic guy. And, he's still working down in Georgia right now. Salisbury got his deal with ESPN. And then, Scott and BR eventually got teamed up. And, they made that thing run pretty well at the end of 690 and obviously at 1090. But no, you're exactly right. The Butt Brothers, they never took hold. Garvey, he was on the old 690 extra gold. He only lasted about 6 months, and Steve was really out of his element. He didn't get a lot of help, quite frankly, but he was totally out of his element.
Yeah. It's interesting. When we got to the finish line, I think we were all shocked when they indicated. Of course, the station had been sold. John Lynch, the founder, sold it to J-Corps. J-Corps then sold it to Clear Channel, which meant a lot of different management people came in. And I think we were all shocked that they were taking this legendary station with a blowtorch signal and the rights to an NFL team, and they're going to try to merge it with something in Los Angeles. And at the end of the day, they had failed to make anything work in the market in Los Angeles, and they eventually folded it. And we all all wound up losing our position, scattered to the wind, if you will. And it was interesting to me that with the snap of the fingers, John Lynch resurfaced and went to another Mexican signal and created the mighty 1090 and put that station on the air. Now, I was not part of that initially on because I'd gone on to Sirius XM, and I spent 3 years doing home plate channel. That's what it was called, made the baseball channel, doing
Right.
weekend baseball talk, and had a blast till that set of circumstances changed. But when 1090 launched, a lot of myriad of different people. Some of them obviously were guys they found. Darren Smith, Marty Caswell came on board. Darren had come from ESPN. Hartman took off. I wound up going to Sirius XM. You became one of the linchpins there. Eventually, Scott and BR. Eventually, Dave and Jeff. A whole myriad of different people surfaced in and out on that roster. Was 1090 early on a struggle to get it going because they didn't quite have what we had, or did it just take time to make it work?
Well, Lee, first of all, I got notified on Halloween of 2002 that my contract would not be renewed. And I got off the phone with our program director at the time, and I called John Lynch and said, hey, this is what's going on. Now, his daughter, Kara, worked with us. Okay. And she had already given her dad the heads up, and he told me, he goes, hey, just sit tight. I got a job for you. My non-compete runs out here in a few months, and you're going to have a job. Didn't tell me anything other than that. And it was the first time, Lee, in my life that I was doing a bunch of basketball games on then Channel 4, and it was the first time really in my broadcasting career I could really focus on doing games and getting prepared and not have to go do a talk show after the final horn and stuff like that. So I had a good time. I got a chance to work with Chris Marlowe. That's who I was doing the games with. And then the first couple days of March, it was on a Sunday. Actually, yeah, it was on a Sunday. I got a phone call from the new program director, and goes, hey, we're starting 1090. And I go, well, I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado. I got a game Monday night. He goes, okay, that's fine. When you getting back? 12 o'clock Tuesday. You're on Tuesday night at 7. And so, we started. And was it a struggle? Yeah, it was. I mean, the biggest struggle was the equipment. I mean, just trying to hold the microphone up to where it didn't fall while you were doing your open or something, that was a struggle. Getting the phone lines, because you and I both, we made a career of talking to people all over Southern California. That was a big part of our show because we wanted people to be inclusive. And, everybody was kind of jockeying for position. Nobody knew exactly how this was going to go. But you know what? As Darren Smith, he actually came to be a producer. He wasn't an on-air guy. I mean, he benefited from Steve Mason going to L.A. I mean, they had an excursion in here, and then Steve Mason left for L.A. And Darren, he was on the team, but he wasn't on air, and that was the big break he got. And he teamed with Billy Werndell.
And it had a long run, and then because it's such an expensive format, it was bought. John Lynch sold it out. Different clientele came in and ran it. And I came on board as an afterthought because of some health issues other people had. And next thing I know, I'm doing afternoon drive, and you're part of this thing. And Scott and BR wound up surfacing and doing the morning show. And that thing really grew, and it had a pretty good run. And then voila, same thing happened again. We're losing our job.
Well, Lee, but you know what? It was for a different reason this time. The first time, what happened at 690 was a crime. And anybody that made that decision should have lost their job and not gotten another one in radio, in my opinion. I mean, we got all fired because we did a hell of a job. I mean, we were, and I'm not going to get into the finances, but I can tell you this, we were paying a lot of other radio stations in that cluster. We were paying their bills every month, okay? But at 1090, after John Lynch sold it, okay, it was just one thing after another. They kept bringing in new, program directors that had no idea what they were doing. You had management people that were more concerned about how much money they were going to put in their pocket. They weren't San Diego people. They didn't know the climate. It was just a lot of mismanagement on 1090, I thought.
Yeah. I got to the finish line and said, okay, I gave it everything I could, and this is what you're doing to us again. Okay, time to step away. And that's why I stepped out of that and went on to do TV. In the history, it just amazes me now, so many years removed from 1090 and prior to that 690, so many people just come to me and say, what was it like? And I said, well, we were the first ones to do it. Nobody had ever done it. Everybody had done sports talk radio at that point. It was mom and pop nice radio. It was Padre postgame on 760 with Dave Campbell. And that was fine. But that nobody had ever done what we did, which was across the board, hard-hitting sports with opinions. And up in Los Angeles, it was the exact same thing. It was Angel talk or Rams talk or Dodger talk. There was no sports talk radio. And we became so big, so dominant, and made so much money because we were selling at advertising rates in the LA market, Orange County market, and what we were charging in San Diego. And as you say, it was criminal that Clear Channel -iHeart destroyed it. It's just shocking to me. And years later, aside from the people who come back to me and say, how did you guys get so good? Well, we were the first one on the street corner. The other thing was, I've had Clear Channel people come back after the fact. We should have never allowed that to happen because I've never, ever recovered from it. So, John.
Let me say this, okay? And anybody who was around, there was nobody in this broadcast industry that worked harder than the guys that you and I were right there at the top with Werndell and Chet and Hart. There's nobody that worked. We were working 24/7 wherever we went. We were pressing the flesh. We were promoting the station. I mean, I was thinking last night. I was thinking about you. You work at least Monday through Friday, and I might be a little conservative on this. You worked at least 11 to 12 hours every day, and I wasn't far behind you, okay? We worked our ass off, and I think about it now where I'm at in my life. I can't believe how hard we actually worked.
John, I shake my head now because I was working 9 days a week. How's that possible? Well, I was doing college football on Saturday, be it the Aztecs or Southern Cal. I was doing the Chargers on Sunday. Then it became the Seattle Seahawks. And I was meeting myself coming and going in airports. And not only doing the show, producing the show, booking all the guests doing the show, and then doing all the game prep at home at night, and then going on the road to do games. I mean, I look back and say, how the hell did I do that? But
I know. I'm amazed. The hours that we put in were just insane.
Yeah, just absolutely amazing. One other comment. The venue today, I am so disappointed at what sports talk in San Diego has become. I'm not bitter. I had a tremendous run. Do I wish I was still doing it? Hell yes. Do I wish I was doing it with you? Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. But we're sitting here now in a different era and aura. Corporate management has made it very different. The Padres station is very successful when it's in baseball season, but that's all they talk about. I don't subscribe to that format. When it's out of season, their ratings are negligible. But they structure what they think they can be successful at. I'm so disappointed at what the second all-sports station has become in San Diego, because all it is turnkey, and you've got a dead signal with virtually no programming that nobody listens to. I've never seen a sports talk station on a big signal to be in as many years as they've been on the air to have such anemic ratings, and the ratings are just deplorable. So I'm just so, I don't know if the word is turned off. I'm just so disappointed at what the sports talk marketplace has become after what we did to lay the groundwork and make it so great. That's my spin.
Well, let me speak on that a little bit. And I do have an association with, 760. They have me on. I actually filled in last week one day for them. They're doing what they can. It's obviously a corporate decision over there, but they have no no chance to get ratings. I mean, when you're playing Dan Patrick and Colin Cowherd, who are good shows, don't get me wrong, but people in San Diego don't want to listen to that. They want to hear local radio from 6 to 12 and then have the two shows, live shows that they have. They have no chance to get ratings because they're giving the other station a 6-hour head start every day, and they also have the Padres. And, you know, you still got a few guys on the radio that work and have some depth of knowledge, but they're very few. And again, management allows people to be lazy nowadays. They got a lot of guys, you know, not all of them. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but some just pick up the paper. They come in and they BS about, you know, this or that or 38 other things, but they don't get out to events. I mean, you and I were at events all the time and, you know, doing whatever we had to do. I mean, it's just a different time, different place. Everybody can just go to the internet now. When you and I started, there was no internet. We got our information by going to practice or picking up the phone and calling people that would develop relationships with over the years, where we try to get as good a solid content as possible. We never wanted to go on the air and, you know, make up stories. I mean, there are some guys I've known that have made up stories over the years, but, you know, I just don't think that the impetus for management to get on these guys to work harder, do more, and it's a lot of fluff radio, quite frankly.
It's unique. I was heartbroken when the stations went out of business. I was heartbroken when Team Spanos moved the Chargers, tearing their back in 55 years of loyalty in this community, what they did to our station, what they did to me personally, just heartbroken. But end of the day, you get up the next morning, there's a new challenge, new landscape, and here's me doing podcasts. Can you believe that?
Yeah, but you know what, Lee? We're enjoying life, and you and I are both getting a little more sun these days. We didn't get outside too much back in those days.
Yeah, we only got outside going from one place to the next to cover
That's
the next.
About right.
To cover. So interesting. John, it's been great. It's kind of cool. Everybody's got a different spin on what 690 and 1090 became. It's fascinating to me when we try to get together for some kind of radio reunions. Just guys come and put their arms around each other because we worked so hard. We enjoyed it. I think we know that we really made a difference in this marketplace. And the marketplace of Southern California was just not San Diego.
You know, Lee, I've been off the air now for about 2.5 years. And, I still do the podcast. I still do UCSD basketball. I do some Strike Force games and stuff like that. But I get out quite a bit to ballparks. And, I got grandkids that are playing. And people always come up and say, hey, thanks for this. Or I grew up driving with my dad listening to you. And, I feel good, but I also feel old when they tell me that. But at the end of the day, hopefully, we made people enjoy sports maybe more than they ever thought they could enjoy sports. And, we've you and I have had a great run. I mean, Wardell and Hartman. We've had a lot of fun together. And you know what? We didn't always agree on everything, but you know what? We have a lot of respect for one another. And some of the best arguments were in the old hallway at Pacific Coast Highway.
I agree with you. John, it's great. I appreciate you doing this and walking down memory lane. We're going to do Thursday. We're going to do the history of LA Sports Talk Radio with one of the guys who did Sports Talk up there, Fred Wallen.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to join us Thursday. So we're going to talk about why we were so good and what they thought of us as the signals went up there and why it didn't work and why it's on the air now, but it hasn't done very well up there. Or is the market too big? It's kind of a unique set of circumstances.
I'll tell you two things. When you first start talking about LA Sports Talk Radio, don't forget Superfan, Ed Beeler, okay?
Yes.
Don't forget him, okay? There's a big story behind that guy. But all those guys that were in Sports Talk Radio up in LA, they were all listening to 690 before they went on the air.
Damn right they were. And it was bleeping brilliant. John,
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. A continued health. We'll do this again. Thanks so much.
Likewise, always a pleasure. Take care.
One of the great ones in the business, the coach, John Kentera. He was with us as a teammate and a star unto his own, just talking about the history of Extra 690 and then the mighty 1090 as we get to the top of the hour. John Riley, you are a sports junkie. So what did you think about the storylines we told, good, bad, and ugly?
I love it. I love every minute of that, because I like so many, you should see the fans forum comments, people reminiscing about growing up, listening to you and Coach. I just was kicking back, enjoying the show.
Yeah, it was cool. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers with 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials. Go to dixieline.com for all the information. Build it, fix it. Guarantee you'll enjoy it the rest of 2026. Look into 27 thanks to dixieline.com. So if you're just joining us, we just decided to do something different today, kind of a day-night doubleheader. So we're going to let you take over the rest of the podcast. We're going to give you the next half hour to talk about Padres' new ownership, the history of ownership that we just talked about at the front end of the show, talk about the new ownership coming in, talking about the Padres being hotter than the weather, who wants to talk about the Dodgers, the future of Dodger ownership, the scandal, the money, Mark Walter, talk about the Angels if you want, the mess in Arizona. We got the Rams, we got the Chargers, got the NFL notebook that we broke a lot of stories on. Obviously, San Diego State challenging you to explain to me how you could be the 7th team out of 8 in season ticket sales in the new Pac-12 conference. Where are the Aztec for Life fans? We're discussing that. NBA notebook, NHL notebook. Feel free to jump on board. John, it's your turn. It's your segment. Your best friends. Fans Forum is open for business. Drop the green flag. Let's see what people have got to say.
Okay, there's a lot of love out there, Lee, but let's go first to MM Forever. You give us money, you go to the top of the list. Hey, would you rather be Jed York or Mark Walter?
Oh, take a shot, take a shot. For people who do not know, Jed York, lead owner, 49ers, arrested on the East Coast soliciting prostitutes. Yikes. I think he will go on vacation and be removed from the 49ers. The Mark Walter story to me, there's 2 angles to this, John, which really bothers me. What's the vetting process for a man with big money? Did they know? Should they have known where this money was coming from when he bought the Dodgers, bought the Lakers, using money from his insurance companies, which is not supposed to be transferred other places? So what's the vetting process there in professional sports for prospective owners? That's just off the top of my head. That's just my quick response. And yours?
It's one thing and the players are getting in trouble. Now it's the owners. It's a shame that this has to be a news story. But what's your take on the whole Vrabel situation? Do you think that the woman is being, how should I say, getting more criticism than the man in that particular case?
I don't know. We're talking about Mike Vrabel and his relationship with Diana Rossini of the New York Times. End of the day, guys have affairs. It's a way of life. Might not be my cup of tea. You might not do it, but guys have affairs. He got caught. Hasn't been sued for divorce yet. Unique situation there in terms of his wife's tolerance level. So I guess I tend to think it's much ado about nothing, but it's a hot, controversial story. So a segment of the media, your TMZs of the world, have to run with it, I guess. But get me to open it.
The sports angle now. It's part of what they're up to. But yeah, the Mark Walter story to me is fascinating. I'm curious to see where this goes and if the Dodgers are going to implode, because some of the fans and Fans Forum are calling it fake news. They don't think it's real.
Oh, I think it's real what Mark Walter's involved in terms of whether the Dodgers are in jeopardy. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, there are billionaires in every street corner in America. If the Dodgers went up for sale, somebody with deep pockets would probably have the chance to buy the Dodgers if Walter is forced out because he has to raise all this cash to pay back the insurance company. We have not heard the end of the story for sure. Okay, next one, John.
Okay, this is just one of many right here, but from Alfred, what an epic conversation. I grew up with you guys. Thank you.
Alfred is correct. We are bleeping brilliant. Now, we had a great group. It's unfortunate the guys have scattered to the winds and not everybody stays in contact with everybody. But John and I and a few of the other guys who were reporters and board ops at 690, 1090, we do stay in contact with each other and kind of look out for each other. Steve Hartman's moved to Arizona. Philly Billy is in Philadelphia, and John and I actually stay in contact with him because he has us on his sports talk show on the station outside Philadelphia. Jim Rome's gone off into a different world. He's not really part of the group. I've been on Mason and Ireland's show. I've been on Scott Kaplan's podcast and Scott Kaplan's radio show because he's relocated up to LA. So there's a whole bunch of us that have just stayed in contact because what we did was really important in our communities. But Alfred, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And, the best way you can help us is just email everybody in your address book or text everybody and tell them Hacksaw's back. Check out his podcast on YouTube because it's really different. You can help us grow this thing. Alfred, thank you for the compliment. Next one, John.
I want to get all the love in here. This is from Bo Bello. 690 talked about all the teams. The randoms on 760 and 97.3 only talk Padres, Aztecs, and a little San Diego FC.
Well, I was the first one through the wall, and I brought my philosophy of how to do sports talk radio with me from Phoenix, and it's what made what I did at KTAR unbelievably successful, the Great Southwest. I was going to talk about everything because, I'm an info guy. I love to research. I love to know. But if I talked about everything, I would hit everybody's hot button. Yes, you might be Padre fan, but you might be Dodger fan, or you might be transplanted Pirate fan or Yankee fan or whatever. Same thing in football. Not everybody was a Charger fan. Damn Raider Nation was everywhere, tattoos and all. But if I could touch everybody's hot button to give them the late stories and invite them to jump on board, and then I expanded and did NBA. And I knew that the West Coast and Southern California had a lot of people from hockey country. I started doing that. And then I expanded. I was doing NASCAR and IndyCar and Formula One. Ownership of the radio station went crazy. I was calling London, England, trying to track down drivers. And then we do boxing and obviously we try to do Olympics. So we did the full spectrum of sports because if I covered it all, I'd hit everybody's hot button and it'd come back to me for the info. Today's different. I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's very deep. Anybody can open the newspaper and say, oh, that's a story. Let's just talk back and forth. And nobody's involving listeners anymore. There's nobody who takes sports phone calls. That's kind of weird to me. You were co-owner of the talk show. That's my philosophy. John, response?
Gwen and Chris take calls. They sometimes have their contests and things, but you're right. I mean, it's nothing like it was in the 90s. I mean, that was the golden era of sports talk. I mean, people here on live stream have been commenting about how people listen to 690. Let me get his comment here. People were saying, yeah, we used to listen to 690 to get all of our sports news because, that was before the internet, Lee.
Yep. I was the internet before the internet. Thank you.
You're like the Joe Biden of sports radio. Okay, let's. I'm going to mix in a lot of love throughout the remainder of this, but let me get to some Padres talk. And where was the comment here? And here we go. Sorry for that. Okay, Mike Chance says, hey, fellas, I'm loving the Padres. Swept the best team in baseball, the Brewers, and just swept the Twins. They also have now won 21 of 28 games. What do you think are their chances in the playoffs?
They're a pretty dangerous team right now because they're getting a lot of quality starting pitching, and Tatis is having an MVP-type month. Now, there's still some guys not hitting. I mean, there's negligible contribution from Machado. And Gavin Sheets dinged up. He's still hitting in the 210s to the 212s. Half their batting order still has really poor numbers, but they're getting home runs and they're getting quality pitching. I'm not going to throw cold water on everything they've accomplished because they've earned this 21 wins in 28 games. But the 20 of the wins have come against really substandard teams. And at the end of the day, starting next weekend, they go play first place Tampa. And they still have to play the Yankees. They still have to play the Dodgers. And they got 7 games against Arizona, which is kind of hanging in there for that last wild card spot. So it's not a slam dunk by any stretch, but much better baseball now than they played the first 2/3 of the season when I thought they were gross underachievers. And, of course, they had all the pitching injury problems.
It's exciting, man. I'm loving this. We're in the stretch run here. I mean, they're only 4 games out from the top wild card spot. I mean, We're like what, August 24th? I mean, there's still time to make up some ground if they keep this thing going. But man, Fernando is just freaking on fire. Every time he touches that ball, he's either throwing someone out of the plate, he's leaping over the wall, or he's hitting bombs out of the stadiums.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, that's has become an MVP type performance, at least in the last group of weeks. Okay, next one.
Okay, again, lots of love here from Texocala Station. I'm loving this mighty 690, 1090 mini reunion. Thank you, guys. Well,
I came up with the idea, and I just had to struggle to try to implement it because John and I have been battling, working in different studios and venues, and we got Coach on. And Thursday, we're going to do it from the LA perspective. So there's Dodger Angel fans, Rams fans, Charger fans. We're going to talk about the history of LA Sports Talk Radio with a guy that lived it up there, Fred Wallen. So that'll be kind of fascinating, too. Next one.
Okay, let's go to our friend John, talk Aztec football. Hey, where are the Aztec football fans? They spent all their money on Padres tickets. What's your take on the NFL exploring expansion to Europe and South America? I'm not really happy about that. San Diego and St. Louis have been abandoned. San Antonio and Salt Lake City are potential candidates that the NFL seems to want to take the United States fans for granted.
Well, I think market size. And again, Europe's a big market. That's got something to do with it. The ability to create more TV inventory, that's got something to do with it. Not having stadiums or sites in San Diego and St. Louis definitely got something to do with it. So, but this is all about expanding the product, John. And I can see them looking at London. I can see them looking at Paris, maybe somewhere in Germany. Yes, they tried to do something creative with the World League of American Football, or what they eventually called NFL Europe, but this is regular season. But I just don't know the logistics. How do you execute that? That becomes the big problem. Do you have a team in London that plays 4 home games in a row, then moves everything and comes and practices here and plays 4 games stateside, then goes back there and plays 4 more there? So there's some complexities to that, as to how you make it all work from a schedule and logistics standpoint. Make sense?
It does make sense. I think that's how you have to strategically use those bye weeks, like to have them near some of the international travel days. I like the idea, but to John's point, if a team has been in a market and left, do they deserve a team again? I mean, Cleveland got a team again. Baltimore got a team again. But does San Diego or St. Louis deserve one? I know. I think the ship has sailed here in San Diego.
Which is not, there's no facility. And that's to me, that's the biggest issue of all. Okay, we carry on. Thanks, John.
Okay, let's go with our good guy, Divine Sports Gospel. Coach was my guy growing up, listening during elementary school, before bed in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Divine Sports Gospel has I guess they have a podcast too. Hey, I'm open to doing your podcast. You're watching mine. That'd be cool. The unique aspect with all the success that we've had, we never get invited to be on anybody's sports talk radio shows. I've never been on The Fan 97.3, and I know all those people. And never been on 760, and I used to work in that building for a long time. Coaches, Coach never been brought back at 97.3. They let him go, and he's doing some marginal stuff over at 760. You find that weird? Is that jealousy? Is that anger? What is that? Because I never hammer those guys.
Generational warfare, maybe. I mean, I just get it. I mean, all due respect to you and Coach, I just think a new generation is growing up now and kind of starting something on their own. And you could tell, like, the way the format changes, and you see a lot more pop culture references that are going on in some of these shows. So I don't know. I think it's great. I mean, just for my point of view as a fan of 690 and 1090, just kicking back and watching you and Coach go back and forth on the old days. I mean, you guys were like our brothers. You were like our uncles. We grew up with you. Stories.
If we sit around, we have Christmas gatherings, kind of radio reunions. So I'll bring you to one of them. We sit around, we start telling stories about the conflicts, the confrontations, the issues, the arguments, the jokes. I mean, John, it's hilarious. You could write a thick book. Okay, move on.
Moving on. Okay, let's go to our friend Callan. And Callan saying, afternoon, gents. Saw nice to have a San Diego FC beatdown on Saturday night. Any thoughts on what could potentially be a 20-team MLS Cup playoff bracket? I'd rather promo relations than a 20-team playoff field.
Well, there's been a lot of conversation about what the future of MLS should be. And, of course, Don Garber has now stepped aside as the commissioner. This came up for conversation about 2 weeks ago, Callum, and the response was, we're not going to think relegation promotion because we've asked these communities to fork over enormous amounts of money to help us build the product and build new stadiums. And if you have a bad product on the field, we're not going to relegate you to the USL. And again, the support leagues are nowhere near equal to what relegation would be in the English Premier League. It's not quality. So at this point, they don't want to turn their back on the communities that spent a lot of money to help build these new stadiums for the Columbus Crew or all these other cities around. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah, let's keep moving. I want to get as many calls in as we can here, or texts, I should say. From Carlos, Dodgers are getting healthier and will be the top team in baseball by season's end. Milwaukee swept L.A. in last year's regular season. Then L.A. swept them in the NLCS. I'm not worried one bit. Go Dodgers.
Yeah, and Carlos is not paying any attention to what's happening down here on the 5405, is he? I don't see Padres mention this at all. Hey, Dodgers, if indeed Snell looks back. Now we have to see what happens tomorrow night. Can Glass now make every start going into the month and through the month of September? Now, losing Pages is a big blow. And not having anything trustworthy about Diaz has to be of concern. But they got strength in numbers. I mean, if they are now talking about Ohtani potentially being a closer or maybe a 1 or 2 inning starter, and you still got Sasaki and you got Skubal. Last I checked, he struck out 11 last start, and you got Yamamoto, who's having a Cy Young type season. So, I mean, the Dodgers are really good. The Dodgers are really deep. The playoffs are going to be good. And I'll tell you, Atlanta's good. Milwaukee is spectacular. And here comes Philadelphia is different. And the Cubs have really come together now that they're finally healthy and they got most of their pitchers back. So the National League playoffs are going to be phenomenal. On the other street corner, the AL used to stand for American League. It now stands for AL Awful League. John, there's only 5 teams with winning records. There's 10 teams with losing records in the American League. It's just dreadful.
It is dreadful. I mean, and the Padres played the Twins. They were the number 3 playoff spot, and they were below 500. I mean, it just tells you about the disparity. But the Phillies have just been red hot, and then Schwarber hits that bomb, and they've won like 9 in a row.
Yep, exactly. The National League playoffs, I think, they're going to be must-see TV. Okay, move on.
Okay, let's go to Casey. Hey, Chet was also a good color guy during the Chargers with Hacksaw and Jim Laslovic for one season before he passed on. Loved Chet's stories. He told of his time directing Monday Night Football.
Well, he was the brilliance behind the scenes. I mean, was Cosell phenomenal? Yes. Gifford, Dandy Don, were they great? Yes. That was a unique, once-in-a-lifetime chemistry. Nobody's ever recreated that. But Chet was the brilliance behind the camera for the camera shots, the angles, the storylines, etc. He did Chargers football with us for 1 year before he passed. And we brought him on as kind of a, not necessarily an X and O's color analyst, but a storyteller. And John, I could sit at breakfast on Sunday morning with him before he'd go to the stadium, or I could sit in the hotel lobby on Saturday night before the game, and I could just listen to his stories about where he'd been, what he had covered, the unique people, good and bad. What a storyteller. I mean, he was a gem of a guy. He had demons. He was a gem of a guy, though.
If I remember, he was also a hell of a basketball player.
Oh, he's an All-American, 5'4", All-American at Columbia University back in the 1950s.
Incredible. I mean, so he was how should I say, a peer of Casey Jones and Bill Russell back in that era, right?
The Bob Cousy type.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's keep on going here. Let's go to our friend Greg. Hey, Lee, as a fellow Pacific Northwest fan, what is going on with the Seattle Mariners? Do they need a change in a manager? Great show.
I'm surprised it has not happened yet, Greg. I think it will happen. I'm wondering if DePoto's in hot water too. Houston just fired their general manager this morning. And it wasn't that long ago. Houston was a dominant team in the National League, although that's an ownership problem there with interference. I think DePoto's job is safe, but they've got all this good young pitching, and they've had a lot of problems with their hitting. And their bats, led by Julio Rodriguez, have not had great seasons. Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, has been in the dumper all year. That's quite a mystery, and he's got to do a real evaluation of how you go from 61 home runs and hitting 300 to batting 160 with 12 home runs, and he's had a dreadful season. And this week, they lost games by 22-0 and 19-2. They're in big trouble in Seattle. So I think there will be a managerial change, but I think there's got to be a cultural change. Something's not right there, aside from the injuries to their everyday performers.
Yeah, I mean, the AL West is a very interesting division right now. I mean, because the Astros are right there too with the Mariners,
and they're under 500. And they're in first place. Go figure that one out.
I know. Okay, let's go here to Jeff. Hey, San Diego sports radio and podcasts are the best. LA only has a few local shows, and it's Dodgers and Lakers, Dodgers and Lakers.
Yeah, I'm surprised that their ratings are terrible. I see the LA ratings. And Thursday, we're going to do a segment on LA Sports Talk Radio and where it came from, what it became, etc. I think you'll like it, but their ratings are really horrible. But see, I think, John, that's a byproduct of who's doing the talk shows. If you have fire and ice guys with great intelligence and drive doing the talk shows, that makes it much more interesting. If you just have a bunch of mom and pop guys who are going to just praise anything and everything and never get to the nuts and bolts and don't have strong opinions and stances. I mean, if I was doing afternoon drive sports talk radio right now, damn it, we'd be talking extensively, obviously, about the Dodgers. We talk about the mess the Angels have become and how you fix that. We would talk about the growth of the Rams. We'd talk about the struggles of, obviously, the LA Chargers. And we would talk extensively about USC and Lincoln Riley, right guy, wrong guy, the arrival of Chesney at UCLA. And by the way, LA Kings and what they're trying to do in the trademark and what the Ducks screwed up. Yeah, I think we'd be covering a lot of topics on the table with a little bit of zing to it. I don't get that sense at all from listening to LA Sports Talk Radio that's happening on a very consistent basis.
Someone needs to hire you, Lee. We got to get you back on the radio for the show every day on drive time. Okay, let's keep on going. And this is to Jake. And he asked the question, so Lee, why didn't you buy the radio station?
I worked too hard for my money to invest it in something like that. I wanted to be an employee and be a star. I didn't want to be an owner and be in management. Nah. But it's a very expensive format to be in. I spent my whole life in news talk and then in all sports. It's an unbelievably expensive format. And I just don't understand the corporate ownership that figured, let's lay everybody off, get rid of anybody that's making any money. Let's put cheap people on, board ops on. Let's fill it with simulcasts or syndicated stuff. You can't sell that. You don't get ratings. I see the ratings. I know whose shows are good and whose shows are hard and whose shows fail in the off season. So you need to have talent. Talent creates content. Content creates ratings. Ratings creates sales success. Formula, John.
It is a formula. I mean, you've got it down. I will give credit to Scott Kaplan because he did pursue trying to buy the 1090 and he ended up trying to work a deal. It didn't work out, but I don't know. I think having radio now would be great, but really the world has moved. The world has shifted. And I think all these podcasts and people are getting their content, in shorts, in like little 60-second vertical videos on TikTok and on Instagram, Lee.
Well, we'll try. This is unique that we're having success doing what we're doing. This is very different. Do I wish I was still doing a show with my teammates, with Coach Kentera, yeah, or Philly Billy, yeah. But just not to be. But we didn't make that decision. Somebody else made that decision. Okay, John, sneak a couple more in here.
Okay, and some more sports talk, a little bit of Canadian angle. Hey, Sportsnet acts 960 Calgary and 780 Vancouver. Only 590 Toronto remains. Weak.
Yeah, that's corporate. That's corporate radio. That's Rogers Sportsnet and that's Bell Media. It wiped out a whole bunch of my friends that did sports talk and have been doing it for a long time in virtually all those major markets. And again, That's profit and loss statements. I don't understand how you can own signals and put garbage on the signals and think you're going to be successful financially. It takes people to create content, and that content allows you then to be successful. And what they've done north of the border in Canada is just, it's terrible. It makes no sense to me at all.
Well, you're still friends with the Winnipeg guys, right?
Yeah. And those are all guys who did sports talk radio fairly successful, and they all got bought out, and they're all doing podcasts. I do the same thing in Edmonton. They all got wiped out. They have started their own Edmonton sports talk podcast, one in Vancouver. But these are all guys who are on sports talk on big stations. The corporate folded. The only one that's still in operation is the Fan in Toronto, 590, and I do NFL Notebook stuff with them on a big 50,000 watt signal. Everybody else they've gotten rid of. Just, it's hard to believe.
Unbelievable. I love all these stories. Hey, let's go to Do You Love It? Some Padres. Hey, Musgrove praying he's his old self. If so, Padres are going to be a force.
Well, let's just be patient. Joe looks like he's ready. He's going to make another rehab start. I think it's tomorrow. And then I think he'll be activated. I think it'll be at the back end of the rotation. I don't think there's any need to force him. Unless the ankle injury to Casey Mize is a little bit more significant, I don't know that I would push Joe Musgrove in. Let him start in long relief. Now, if Mize is dinged and has to miss a couple of starts because they need to be careful with him, then maybe Musgrove gets an opportunity. But, we talked about it. I wrote a column about it on my website. It is such a long, lonely road for these guys to come back from this rehab, the starts, the stops, the successes, the setbacks, etc. I feel for Nick Pivetta because he's got fire in his belly and he just can't get over the hump yet. He's trying hard. He's done everything he can. Joe's tried hard and he's fought back from the setbacks. So we'll see what tomorrow and what probably this road trip brings.
We'd love to see those two guys get back. Hey, let's sneak in one more here. Charger talk with Steve Zach Botsford. Chargers already charging. Damn, the curse continues.
Well, bad injury to Tyler Badez, the center. It was a cheap shot from his own teammate that caused this injury. Jake Slaughter looks like he can play in this league. But again, this is preseason. I want to see what happens when it's live fire with the complexities of line calls and all that and how he holds up. They don't look right in the interior of that offensive line because of the loss of the starting center. Slaughter will give him some stability there, but can he physically hold up? And what do they do at left guard? What do they do at right guard? Those two areas don't look good to me at all. So it's just a setback. It's just bad luck. But sadly, it was a cheap shot from one of his own teammates that got the Charger offensive center hurt. Okay, we thank you for being so patient. Hope you enjoyed this stroll down memory lane, history of sports talk radio with Coach Kentera. It was kind of cool. Hope you'll tell your friends what we do. Mondays at 1:30, Thursdays at 1:30 on this podcast. Check my website. I write on it every day of the week. Become part of my insiders group. Register, email, join us on the website, fill out the email item, and that way you'll get on the list. You get 2 newsletters a day that John Riley and I send out. We'll be back Thursday. Circle it on your calendar. Thursday, we're going to talk about the guys on the other street corner, Sports Talk Radio up in Los Angeles. Hope you'll enjoy it. John, great job. We got through it. It was complicated. We're working in 2 new studios with a lot of new equipment, and then we tried to do something from the outside. Thanks again to our friend John Kentera for throwing some gasoline on the fire and talking about Sports Talk Radio at 690 and 1090. Good time.
It was fun listening to the two of you go, Lee.
Old dogs. That's called experience.
Yes, it is.
Hey, we thank you for being with us. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers with 8 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it, fix it. Guarantee you will enjoy it. We will see you come Thursday at 1:30. Thanks as always for being part of Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.